When I say go, let's clarify this before I start a countdown. When I say go.
Okay.
Were we going on one or do we go after one? Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. Welcome back to Poutine Politics, Canadian issues served with cheese curds. My name's Adam.
My name's Mike.
And today, we're going to talk about the markets crashing.
Yeah, I was specifically going to talk about oil prices because I always care about current events, as we've seen so far with all of my great relevant topics.
Mike, all we have to do is build pipelines, and it's going to save the economy.
It's going to save the economy.
It's totally going to save the economy.
Save the economy. That's right. Okay. I think I'm going to go with a different approach this time around because I love changing up the approach on podcasts, apparently. So who knows? But I'm going to start asking questions I think the audience would like to ask rather than questions of Adam.
All right.
Okay. But Adam still gets to answer because I like putting him on the spot and make him answer questions.
Because I am the audience.
Because Adam is now the audience. Okay. So what has happened to our gasoline prices over the last little bit?
They have gone down like at least 30%.
At least 30%?
At least 30%. I'd say
how
more.
much is it? I would say how much did it cost to pay at the pump as opposed to what it used to be?
I mean, it depends on where you are, right? Like, I mean, because I travel around, I've seen prices anywhere from $59.9, going by regular prices, so anywhere from $59.9 up to like $82.9. But I'd say on average, we're kind of like low 70s.
It's so funny. I used to always measure how long it would take me to get my gas by the price number, not by the fuel number.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I'm getting close to $15. Clink. Oh yeah, I'm done now. Oh, when did this happen? I haven't had this gas this low since I was a teenager.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right?
Well, and I mean, since I drive a car that uses premium, before this all started, premium gas was kind of like around $1.30. Now I can get premium for under $1.
Yeah. And now you might be asking yourself, why are gas prices so low? Adam, why are gas prices so low?
Because Russia and Saudi Arabia are jerks.
I like that answer. Now, the less in-depth or next level is because of the price of oil, which is the Western Texas Instrument Standard, which to me always was the calculator, not the oil price.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, Texas Instruments.
Oh, I had to look it up. I was like, what's WTI? It's West Texas Instrument. That's a calculator. That's not a oil price. But that's the standards.
Yeah.
And you might be like, well, okay, so what? So oil prices, according to WTI, was $45 a barrel on March 1st. As of March 27th, it is $21 a barrel. That's a little bit of a drop.
It's fine.
Who would people point to is the general organization, we'll call it, that's responsible for this?
Justin Trudeau.
He's an organization all himself?
Yes. Dude, haven't you been listening to the Twitters? Okay, it's all
the Twitters.
It's all Trudeau's fault. Okay.
Yeah, I usually listen to the Twitters.
I know. Anyways, no, OPEC.
And who's in OPEC? Do you know?
Okay, so I know Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, Venezuela.
Yep.
Kuwait.
Yep.
I know.
Just guess.
I know Iraq is not.
They are.
Oh, they are. Okay, I don't think they were. There was one point I think where they weren't.
Yeah, countries have left and come and gone.
Colombia? No, not Colombia. I know there's another South American country, but I don't remember who.
There's Algeria, Angola, Congo, Equatorial
Guinea is oh no, they're in Africa. Is that Africa? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Anyways.
Gabon, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Libya, Nigeria, and the United Arab Emirates. Not including Venezuela and Saudi Arabia. Venezuela was one of the founding members.
Right.
Now, I won't ask you the more complicated question of, you mentioned Russia. How does Russia get involved if they're not a part of OPEC?
That's exactly how they get involved because they're not a part of OPEC. They want to control many things. The price of oil would be one of them, since they are a net exporter of oil, just like they are a net exporter of natural gas.
Yep. So they formed what they called OPEC Plus. So
Yes.
it rephrased it with a few other countries totaling 24. I'm not going to get anyone to bore them with those details. And the reason why this is so important is because they're the ones that, as a community, can control the price of oil.
Mm-hmm.
And what would be interesting is how much does each country contribute? Do you know how much each country contributes?
Like percentage-wise?
Yeah, we'll go percentage.
Okay. No, I don't. I was gonna. In my head, I was thinking Venezuela's like 4%. Saudi Arabia is like, I don't know. I would guess in like the 15 to 20% range. But honestly, beyond that, I have no idea.
Saudi Arabia is 15%. OPEC represents 40%.
So does Saudi Arabia represent 15% of OPEC or 15% of total?
No, 50% of total.
Oh, okay.
The one that's the most is actually the U.S.
Oh, because of shale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They represent 16%. It's a little bit higher, but it's still there.
Yep.
And then Russia's at 12%. So the reason why that's kind of important is because of what was proposed. What ended up happening was that Russia and Saudi Arabia, to try to combat the decline in the economy and decline in the demand for oil, they said, well, if we decrease our supply, we can still keep the cost, like the profits, the same way that they are, right?
Yep.
So if we decrease supply, we can still keep our profit margins the same to a degree. So they're like, okay, so we're all going to agree to reduce it, which is fine. Then Saudi Arabia's like, yeah, I remember the agreement we made like 3 months ago back in January. We need to reduce it more. So can you guys reduce it some more? And Russia's like, maybe. And Saudi Arabia's like, yeah, but we need you to reduce it by half. Even though they contribute less than Saudi Arabia was basically saying, hey, we need you to contribute to half of the reduction. And Russia's like, no, we're not doing that. Saudi's like, no, you have to. Consequently, Russia's like, well, forget it. I'm out.
Yep.
So everyone's back to full prices. And then all of a sudden the price of oil per barrel goes through the floor.
Yeah, because they went back to regular
outputs.
Supply. Yeah, regular output.
Yeah, they're like, well, we'll just keep the supply. And then Saudi Arabia's like, okay, well, we'll keep our supply. And what would you call it if you were controlling the markets like that?
Well, you're a market maker.
No, I mean,
come on, man.
A market maker.
You're a market maker.
What's the other term?
Oil baron?
No, I'm like, sorry. Some people use. They've used the word oil cartels.
Okay, which is what some people refer to OPEC as an oil cartel, right?
Right.
And really, the House of Saud itself could probably be considered an oil cartel in and of itself.
True, very true. And or supply management.
Yeah. Okay.
And supply management is very much on the socialist side of things,
which nobody likes right now, right?
Yeah, everyone hates socialism.
Everyone hates socialism,
especially the right wing.
Yes.
But wait, what Canadian industries are very much supply management?
Dairy, chickens, eggs.
Happen to get a right-wing politician elected. I'm confused.
Oil and gas.
I don't understand how supply management. It's a socialist product, but right-wing conservatives all about it. I don't understand.
No, don't worry. They're going to get rid of it, right? They're going to get rid of supply management. That's on the to-do list.
Now you can start playing fingers. Now you can start playing the blame game. Now, if you look at the media, who do they blame?
I would say that the media blames Russia more than they blame Saudi Arabia.
Which is funny.
Yeah, they almost ignore Saudi Arabia in the equation completely.
Which, in my opinion, it's Saudi Arabia. When I was going into this, I literally said, why did Russia collapse their oil prices? And then I went, Well, no, they really didn't. Saudi
No.
Arabia was just forcing them to do more, and Russia's like, no.
Well, the agreement, as I understood it, or what Saudi Arabia wanted Russia to do, it was essentially, okay, we need you to take a pay cut. In order for the economy to survive, and in order for us to remain profitable, you need to take a pay cut. And Russia's like, well, we're not going to take a pay cut. Why wouldn't you take a pay cut too? Why isn't it equal? And Saudi Arabia said, because that's not how it works.
Well, I don't know if it was that extreme that it was one-sided taking the pay cut, but it was definitely that Russia was asked to take way more of the burden than Saudi Arabia was. Because Saudi Arabia was going to cut too, but the cut wasn't going to affect Saudi Arabia anywhere near as much as it was going to affect Russia.
Right. Well, right. And I guess that's kind of part of my point, right?
Yeah. It's I wouldn't say that they weren't going to get cut. It was nowhere near as bad for them as it was for Russia. And Russia's like, well, screw you. I'm going to go. Now, if we've talked about how OPEC screws everything up, how does this affect the average everyday Canadian right now?
Well, the price of oil is in the tank. No pun intended. Well, actually, pun intended. And, I guess even though technically you could say it's a small percentage of the economy, it's still a decent enough percentage on its own in that the oil and gas sector is approximately 10% of our economy. When you look at oil and you think, oil's probably still the predominant part of that 10%. And if it has basically gone to zero, that's a significant amount of GDP that's lost. That's a significant amount of business revenues that's lost. And as a result, that will be a significant number of jobs that are lost.
Yes. That's more broad scale. What about the individual? Because that's more of how it affects in a broad stroke.
Well, the individual in a broad stroke, obviously, we've got the lower gas prices right now.
So if we were to use our neighborhood as an example, where we'll say it's 65 cents a liter right now, how low do you think it'll go? What's your over-under?
Considering where it is now and where Western Canadian Select is right now as well, I know we don't base on Western Canadian Select prices, but honestly, I wouldn't see it going beyond 50 cents.
My bet is 55.
Yeah.
I can't see it getting below 55. It's still low, but nowhere near.
Like we said, we haven't seen prices like that since we were how old? It's been over 20 years.
Right. And in our buying power was less than too, right?
Of course, the thing is that a lot of this was potentially going to happen with or without COVID-19, right? There has been an expectation for the last 12 to 15 months at least that 2020 was probably going to be a slower year, I guess, essentially. Like countries were projecting no growth or very little growth this year. And like I said, that was even before coronavirus was really where we are now, where we're not recording in the same room anymore. So it's quite possible that had COVID-19 not being as serious of a situation as it is, that we'd probably still have, relatively lower gas prices, maybe not exactly where they are, but they would have been lower. And, the ironic thing about this from an Alanis Morissette standpoint is that we have low gas prices and nowhere to travel.
Right. So there's a bunch of things contributing to low gas prices. You could say market economy, definitely price of oil is a huge thing. And the lack of travel overall also contributes to that because demand's going down further and further. Mm-hmm. The thing about it is to say that it would go this low, I would never see that. I just couldn't see it going this low, even with projections the way they were. Even if bubbles collapsed, they wouldn't have collapsed the way they were. Because every economist, they may have thought that some economies weren't going to grow, but they all expected China's economy to grow. Or not to shrink the way it did.
Right.
And China's economy just collapsed, basically. In a way.
That's what happens when you essentially shut the country down for the better part of 2 months, right?
Sorry, collapse isn't the right word. When you segment off a portion of your GDP, your GDP is just not going to be as high.
Yep.
Right? And that's what they've done. They've just said this sector, let's say 5%, we're just not going to get anything from it. Well, that trickles down into many, many more problems. So that's why gas prices are so low. And they will remain low because it's going to take a while for everything to get back up. And I don't see anything on nice, easy, simple solution on the horizon either.
Well, that was the interesting thing when I was, listening to some stuff and reading some stuff this week about the fact that there's some people, not government, but there's some people that are estimates for this year, let's say, is that Canadian GDP is only going to drop by 5%. And I now there's others that say it'll be more like 15%. And I'd be like, yeah, you're probably a bit more on the ball with this because, despite the fact that everybody is an essential service in Ontario, so many businesses are shut down right now because obviously people aren't spending money and can't keep the doors open, can't afford to pay your employees and things like that. I would not be surprised if it was at least a 10 to 15% hit on the GDP. And of course, this is then where the deficit hawks come out and are like, oh, well, look, our debt to GDP ratio isn't so hot now anymore, is it? And it's like, yeah, but we just went through the biggest crisis that we've dealt with since the Spanish flu.
Yeah. This is a way different market reaction. This is like a supply side problem more so than a demand side. Consumers aren't wanting products right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's different than they can't afford it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's way different. Or the economies of scale aren't in our favor. And that's why this oil price fall, among other things, among COVID-19, which people talk to death about, and I don't need to talk about it myself.
Listen, every day at 11:15 a.m., give or take half an hour, Justin Trudeau comes out of Rideau Cottage and gives an update. It's a prepared statement, obviously, which I'm fine with. Some people are like, he's reading a prepared statement. And I'm like, do you want him to just come out there and wing it? He's giving you an update of what the government is doing. Maybe it should be a prepared statement.
I think all statements from the governments should be as prepared as possible.
Yeah, imagine that.
I would love it if I could have a prepared script for the podcast.
That's
the reason why I do a lot of research. But realistically, I can't do that.
So now, okay, so then in regard to get back to oil prices then.
The big long-term things that I'm concerned with is that, for instance, in Alberta, where 30% of their GDP is direct as oil, basically.
Yeah.
That's going to be really hard hit. And the reason why is that some people may not realize it cost Alberta $20 to $40 per barrel to produce oil.
Yep. When
the cost of oil is less than $20, you're not making profit just to produce it, let alone ship it or anything else, right? You're just losing money.
Which is also why the calls from people where it's like we still need to get the pipelines built is pretty silly, because when you look at the market for oil as a whole, let's say during this whole situation the Trans Mountain expansion still gets built, okay? It's not like the price of Western Canadian Select is going to go above the price of West Texas. So, okay, it's fine. It does help the economy in Alberta because they'll be making more money than they are right now, but it's still not enough, and it's not going to solve the problem. A lot of pundits seem to think that it's the panacea. This is what's going to fix everything. It's going to make sure that the economy stays, healthy enough until everything can open back up. And it's it's not. It's not enough on its own.
Alberta needs to get off its dependence of oil, and then that'll be better for the overall Canada economy. And, as much as people say, well, what happens in Alberta won't necessarily affect me in Nova Scotia. I'm like, it will, because they're the ones that are a big driver of the economy. So, yeah, it's not going to affect you today. You're going to have a much cheaper oil tank whenever you decide to fill up. And by the way, when you go to fill up oil, please, for the life of God, wipe your hands, wash your hands, use gloves, so that way you don't transfer it, because that's a commonly touched surface.
And it's a metal surface in most cases.
Yeah. With that being aside, yeah, you're getting cheap gas now, but I mean, how much of your budget goes to fuel? Probably not as much as you think, not as much as you whine that it does. So that's why I wanted to make sure. One of the big things that I wanted to clarify with this episode was basically, don't blame Russia. As much as I am a person that's not a fan of what Russia does, I'm a fan of the truth, so to speak, we'll say. Mm-hmm. And in this case, I don't want to blame Russia. Russia could take some of the burden on this, but in the beginning of the day, I'm not a big fan of supply management as it is, but that's because there's a way to run and there's a way not to run it. The dairy farm isn't as badly run as people make it out to be in supply management, but for the most part, I'd rather see the market do what it's going to do and let it go. Mm-hmm. Because if the market was going to do what it's going to do, Alberta's not dependent on oil.
Yeah.
Because Alberta would never build up that infrastructure. They'd be like, well, this is crazy. I mean, our feet can get literally cut from underneath us. We should never do this. And they never would have. And then that's not a problem.
Yeah.
We did this because oil prices at one point in time were $140 a barrel. And then it made profitable, right?
Yeah.
But now it's not.
Yeah. That's the power.
And now we're anchored to it.
The power of inflation, right? Like, you remember, so that was what, 12 years ago, that price of oil was $140 a barrel. And we were paying about $1.40 for regular gas at that time. And you have to think, even before the markets dropped and the price of oil was just a little over $50 a barrel, and we're paying, in our area between $1, $1.09, something like that. So it's like, to get back to say that $1.40 gas that we saw when the barrel was $140, we would have only needed a barrel of oil at like $80.
Yeah.
That's, over 12 years. Over 12 years, basically inflation was 100%.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, the oil market commodity is way too risky.
Yeah.
It just way too unpredictable. So we shouldn't, as a country as a whole, shouldn't be marrying into that. Like, we need to get out of the oil sector. Jason Kenney needs to shut down his oil war room, because who cares now?
Good luck with that.
Your war room is dead. You lost the war.
You rammed through a budget based on assumptions of the price of a barrel of oil being $58 for the next 5 years.
And now you're snookered.
I mean, like the price of a barrel of oil was already down under $30. And rather than doing what most other governments in this country have done, which is doing like an economic update and things like that, they decided instead, well, no, we've got a budget ready. We're going to ram it through, and basically made no changes to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
No. Like the federal government didn't pass a budget. Ontario is not passing a budget. I don't think any other provinces right now are passing a budget. They're doing financial updates, doing a budget in the fall, assuming that everything's fine in the fall. Why could Alberta not do the same?
There was a time where I thought there's no way that Ford could be higher in my ranking than Kenney, and it now is the case. Like, how sad is that?
Here we are. Here we are, man. That's all we can say right now.
Ford got better.
Yeah. But I mean, oil prices aren't going to get better for...
Not for the foreseeable future.
It's going to be months, at least. And even still, it's not going to just boom all of a sudden pop back up, right? It's just like
not unless Saudi Arabia and Russia decide to coalesce to help out the Canadian and United States economies.
But why would they do that exactly? Yeah, why would they bother?
Russia's going to help out the U.S. I like that.
Well, it's just like the thought process when you look at what's going on in the States is, well, they have to make the stock market recover as quickly as possible, right? It's like, oh, this is just a blip, and everything will be back open by Easter, and the stock market's going to come roaring back. And it's like, you don't really know how this works, do you?
Nope. No, not a clue.
This is not a recovery like 2008 and 2009. I mean, even that recovery took close to a year. This is going to be longer than that.
Yeah, because it's different. It's just completely different. Like, the economy can't ramp back up like it used to, because we can't all of a sudden say, okay, let's make everything good. Unless they have a vaccine, we're not going back to business as usual.
No.
Until the vaccine comes out, we're not doing any of that. Until the vaccine's out or everyone's recovered, because everyone got the disease, we're not going back to business as usual.
No. All right.
Well,
I guess that is our take on oil prices effective March of 2020, because obviously that could change. And if anybody decides to listen to this episode 5 years from now and be like, what are you guys talking about? Price of oil is $100 a barrel now. We'll be like, well, maybe you should check and see when this episode came out.
Or 5.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, exactly. West Texas Instrument is $5 a barrel and Alberta's bankrupt. Sorry, Alberta.
Much. Sorry, not sorry.
Vote better next time. Anyways. This has been Poutine Politics. My name's Adam.
And it's Mike.
We'll talk to you soon.